Now, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton and Steve Bannon are among the many powerful figures pictured in photos that have emerged this afternoon from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. These are released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee earlier today. It comes ahead of the US government's deadline to share all of its material by next Friday, so we'll still be here. We hope you'll still be here to talk about that. Lewis Goodall joins me to talk about it, presenter of Sundays with Lewis Goodall on LBC, co-host of the podcast The Newsagents. Now, before we get on to the Epstein stuff, you won, we're going to big you up, you won Scoop of the Year last night at the Journalism Awards 2025, not surprisingly, for the uncovering of a secret Afghan resettlement scheme, which was caused by massive MOD data leak that you were prevented from reporting on for 2 years?
Yes, 2 years, 23 months, from the August 2023 until July this year, Sheila. So,
well, congrats on the award, well deserved. Where are things now on that data leak?
Well, actually, Sheila, if anything, we've learned that it's even more serious in terms of the Ministry of Defence than we thought at the time, because we learned since it was disclosed in August that, in fact, there have been 49 separate different data breaches at the unit handling applications from Afghan citizens to relocate to the UK. So it is not just a case, and people remember, just to remind listeners, at the time, I found out in 2023 that there had been this substantial, massive data breach. Basically, someone had sent accidentally an email with all the names and addresses and contact details and family members, all this sort of stuff, of all of the people who had applied for resettlement from Afghanistan, who had helped the British Army over the 20-year operation there. Someone at the Ministry of Defence had accidentally sent this email to someone involved. That data breach obviously then represented potentially a systemic risk to those people, because
they'd be regarded as traitors by the Taliban.
They'd be regarded as traitors, and there was evidence that the Taliban were carrying out reprisal killing against anybody who had given assistance to the British Army during that time. So it was catastrophic. I thought at the time, well, what are we going to do about this? Contacted the Ministry of Defence. Cut a very long story short, people will remember, then basically served with a super injunction, which was constitutionally unprecedented. No government had ever taken out a super injunction before to prevent journalists from reporting a story that was in the public interest. Initially, we thought that would be for a few months. It ended up being 2 years.
And this was under the Conservative government, but continued by the Starmer government.
It was renewed for about, maintained for about a year. Eventually, John Healey, the Defence Secretary, organised a review which came back and said, actually, we don't think it's as big a deal to allow this to be made public as we did 12 months ago. They didn't really provide much of a justification for that was very credible, but nonetheless they didn't. The point of the matter is, there were two elements to the story, both of which continue to be germane to this day. One, obviously, is the question of actually what happened to those Afghans in the first place, some of whom we clearly owed a serious debt to. Did we honour them? We did in the end. The government did remove thousands and thousands of people, but that was all done at a cost of billions and billions of pounds without anybody knowing about it, without Parliament being able to exercise its scrutiny function over it, with the Speaker of the House of Commons himself being served with a super injunction to prevent his talking about it, never mind the rest of the media. So that mattered, but it also, of course, matters just in terms of the future of journalism in this country and the future of our democracy. Is it okay for a government? I think, to this day, partly initially it was about the safety of those involved, but then it became about political expediency. The Sunak government at the time did not want this story to come out close to a general election. That is my view about what happened. I think that was quite clear from the endless secret court hearings that
And in a way it served Labour, newly in power, to say fresh air on this.
Yeah, well, yeah, eventually so. So, and I do not think that is a comfortable place for our democracy to be in. We are not like the United States. We do not have First Amendment rights. Basically, we are allowed to say what Parliament allows us to say in the end. That is what this case was about. The government, in the end, decided, through the court system, decided what we could report and what we couldn't, not just for a brief period, which does happen from time to time.
And that's normally for safety, isn't it?
Nor for national security, but over a 2-year period, after which there was clearly no national security reason not to report it. In my view, it was about politics. And I think that, we've asked the government since, can you rule out ever using a super injunction again on any subject? They haven't said yes. And what I worry about, Sheila, for all we know, for all I know right now, for all you know, is there another super injunction about something else? Are there secret courts going on right now preventing journalists like us from reporting what we know. I think the fact that it could be is disturbing to me.
Well, in America, they do have First Amendment rights, and they've been pushing hard for some of these photos that we see today connected to the Epstein estate. What's been revealed?
So, listeners will remember, Sheila, that the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee, they've been concerned to release this information for a long time, and they've just released a new batch of photos from the Jeffrey Epstein estate, showing a whole cachet of powerful men who were in the sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's orbit over the course of his lifetime and professional career. Those include, among others, former President Bill Clinton, the Republican strategist Steve Bannon, the billionaire Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and of course, most politically germanely, President Donald Trump. Indeed, there are 19 images, all of which the committee have said have come from the Epstein estate, and clearly, particularly with Trump, reinforce the idea and reinforce to some extent what we already know, but that he had a large collection of powerful and very high profile people going up to and including President Trump. President Trump, of course, always denying that he had much of a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Certainly once these allegations came to light, we can see on these pictures, one image released today shows what appears to be a bowl of novelty condoms with a caricature of Trump's face. A bowl has a sign on it saying Trump condom $4.50, each condom bearing an image of Trump's face with the text, "I'm huge." Another shows Trump with 6 women with whose faces have been redacted by the committee. And as I say, others involved.
And on that picture, it's hard to tell the age of those women.
It is.
But some of them look pretty young to me.
Yeah, look, we don't know. I mean, the committee has redacted it, and obviously we don't know the women concerned. I think what the pictures obviously serve to do is further undermine the idea that President Trump did not have a friendship, did not have a reasonably serious relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, of course, Donald Trump and all of these men involved, by the way, we should say, have all denied that they had knowledge of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, that he was a sex trafficker, that he was an abuser, and so on. But I think the reason, look, one way or the other, actually, we should say, of course, it is the Democrats who have released this. They know what they're doing. They know that these are politically noxious. It's politically damaging to Donald Trump. So let's, make no bones about that. But we should say that Donald Trump started his second presidency being politically hegemonic. It felt like nothing could touch him. No scandal, no mistake, no bit of incompetence, no policy backfiring or whatever. He was king of all he surveyed. He now finds himself with as a deeply unpopular president. But more importantly than that, he finds himself for the first time in his now 10-year domination of the Republican Party, he finds himself with his grip over the Republican Party
and
the MAGA movement suddenly looser than it's ever been. And it is this story, the Epstein story, which has done more than anything else to prise that grip loose, because it has been an article of faith among the MAGA faithful that they wanted justice on this story, that they believe, because it spoke to something deep within their psyche, that there's this cabal of powerful men centered around Epstein at the top of the establishment, at the top of American politics, that people like Epstein are being protected. And who should find himself, this is the rub, who should find himself at the center or as part clearly of that network of friends of Epstein, but Donald Trump himself. And the problem is if you spend years, as Trump has done and those around Trump have done, saying they're trying to hide the truth from you. There is a corruption, there is a cabal, there is an establishment. And then to find your guy, to find yourself at the centre of something that looks like a cabal, well, that is clearly very politically dangerous.
And more to come next Friday.
More to come next Friday. Well, as you say, this is the deadline. And there is this endless, thousands, they said tens and tens of thousands of documents as part of the Epstein estate. And look, I mean, we should say, I mean, they're not, so far we don't know any more, as you said, the details about who these women are and so on. But again, it reinforces the idea, or it undermines and puts the spotlight back on Trump to answer further questions about the nature of his relationship with Epstein and what he did and didn't know.
And do you think of all the, just to finish, of all the people that we see just in this selection, and there'll be more obviously, that it is Trump to whom it matters the most now, the biggest risk is to him?
Well, I think so for the reason, I mean, look, he's the incumbent president, right? So he is the player on the political pitch. And so therefore it matters most. But as I say, even though, none of the released images depict any sexual misconduct, nor are they believed to depict underage girls, it's not immediately clear when they were taken or where they were taken or by whom. The point is, and though the Republicans say that, this is part of a witch hunt, and that is what Donald Trump will say as well, the fact is that Trump cannot easily cling to that defence because, as I say, it is Republicans and indeed MAGA Republicans who have been at the forefront of wanting this case to be prosecuted and it to be at the centre of congressional work. So it is not something that is easily undone or something that is ignored. Look at what's happened, Sheila. The best way, I think, of epitomising it in a way is what's happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was the principal cheerleader of Donald Trump at his lowest point after January the 6th, after he lost the 2020 election. She was the person who was there when many of the other Republicans did not want to know him. She has ended up profoundly alienated from the president. He's ended up calling her Marjorie Traitor Greene. There are lots of different reasons why that has happened, but one of the reasons is that she had wanted this, and she had long expressed concerns about Jeffrey Epstein. She had long wanted all of these documents released, only to see resistance from the Trump administration, from the White House, which has obviously led lots of MAGA people to ask, why doesn't the president, who told us that he wanted all of this out there, why does the president not want these documents out there? And it just feeds that sense of conspiracy and feeds that sense that Trump has got something to hide.
Well, the podcast, as ever, drops at 5 today. And on your Sunday show, just very briefly, if you wouldn't mind, because we're talking about it now, you've done an interview with Sadiq Khan.
That's right. We did an interview with the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, where he does talk about Donald Trump and what he describes as Donald Trump's obsession with him and the fact that the mayor believes that he's living rent-free, he says, in Donald Trump's head. So that'll come on Sunday.
Thank you very much, Lewis. Lewis Goodall, host of the Newsagents podcast, and that Sunday programme mentioned there.